The teacher ripped the bag open before Emma could even stand up, and a bundle of stolen exam papers hit the floor in front of 200 witnesses. "These were in your bag," the principal said, holding them up like a weapon. "Explain this, right now." "Those aren't mine," Emma said. "I swear on my life, those aren't mine." Nobody moved to help her. Nobody even blinked. In less than 4 minutes, her scholarship was gone. Her name was crossed off the honor roll, and the boy she loved wouldn't even look at her. What none of them knew was that someone in that room had planned every second of it. And 5 years later, that same girl would walk back into this town as somebody none of them could afford to disrespect. If you want to see exactly how she does it, hit subscribe right now before we go 1 second further. Drop a comment with the word watching, and smash that like button because the story only gets heavier from here, and I need you in the fight with me till the very end. 3 weeks earlier, Emma Carter was just a girl trying to survive her own house. She was 17, an orphan since she was 9, living in her aunt's spare room because there was nowhere else for her to go. Her aunt never let her forget it either. "You eat my food, you sleep under my roof, you do what I say." Her aunt snapped at her almost every morning. "Don't you dare act like you're better than this family." Emma never argued back. She just kept her head down, finished her chores, and studied by flashlight after midnight when the real work of her day was finally done. She wanted to be a doctor, not for money, because a doctor had once held her dying mother's hand and told her the truth gently instead of lying to make her feel better. And Emma had promised herself, standing in that hospital hallway at 9 years old, that she would do that for someone else one day. An old neighbor named Ruth, who sold coffee out of a cart on the corner, was the only adult who ever looked at Emma like she mattered. "Baby, a lie only wins the day you decide to carry it," Ruth told her one evening, handing her a free cup she couldn't afford to give away. "Put it down. Let the truth carry itself. It always gets where it's going eventually." Emma didn't understand that yet. She would understand it completely 5 years later, standing in front of the same people who destroyed her. There was a boy in her class named Brian Hayes. Smart, quiet, the kind of confident that never had to raise its voice. He'd noticed Emma long before he ever spoke to her. The way she stayed after class to help other students for free, the way she never complained even when her uniform was falling apart at the seams. "You don't have to keep proving yourself to everybody," Brian told her once, sitting beside her at lunch. "I already know how smart you are. Somebody has to notice eventually," Emma said, half joking, half not. "I noticed a long time ago," he said. Across the cafeteria, a girl named Vanessa Cole watched that entire conversation and felt something cold settle behind her eyes. Vanessa had money, a driver, a father who bought her whatever she pointed at. She had always assumed Brian would eventually be hers, the way everything else had simply been handed to her. "He picked her," Vanessa said flatly to her friend Grace Bennett later that day. "Over me. Maybe it just wasn't meant to happen," Grace said carefully. "No," Vanessa said. "If I can't have him, she's not keeping him either. She's not keeping anything." That single sentence would nearly destroy an innocent girl's entire life. Vanessa found Grace 3 days before the scholarship exam and slid an envelope across the lunch table toward her. Stolen answer sheets folded inside, lifted from an unlocked teacher's drawer the night before. "Put it in her bag during the break," Vanessa said. "Nobody will ever know it was you." "I can't do that," Grace whispered. "Vanessa, that could ruin her life." "Then you'd better think about what I know about you," Vanessa said quietly. "And what happens if I decide to share it with the whole school instead?" Grace's hands were shaking when she finally said yes. She would spend the next 5 years wishing she had said no instead. The morning of the exam, 200 students sat in tense silence, waiting for a chance most of them had prepared years for. Emma sat by the window, her pencil sharpened 3 times over, more hopeful than she had felt in years. During the 15-minute break, Grace moved quietly down the aisle with the envelope pressed against her side, reached Emma's open bag hanging off the back of her chair, and slid the papers inside in under 5 seconds. Nobody noticed. except one girl standing near the door, who caught a flash of movement out of the corner of her eye and would spend years wondering if she had imagined it. The exam resumed. Emma wrote steadily, certain this was the day her whole life would finally change. She had no idea it already had, and not in the way she'd prayed for. If this story already has your heart pounding, that means it's working exactly the way it's supposed to. So comment right now and tell me where you're watching from. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet, and stay with me, because what happens next is where Emma's entire world comes apart in front of everyone she trusted. Less than an hour later, a teacher noticed a missing answer key from the staff room and called for an immediate search. By morning, the whole town had turned on her. Women who used to smile at her in the store now crossed the street to avoid her. Boys who used to beg to copy her homework now laughed behind her back like she was a joke. Only one person stayed. Sandra Miles, a girl 2 years older who lived nearby, found Emma sitting alone behind the old gas station that night, the exact spot where Ruth used to find her crying as a kid. "I believe you," Sandra said simply, sitting down beside her. "And I'm not leaving you out here by yourself." By morning, the two of them were on a bus to Chicago with almost nothing, but with each other. If you've ever been judged before anyone bothered to hear your side of the story, type "truth always wins" in the comments right now. Hit like if this story has you emotional already, and subscribe because Emma is about to hit absolute rock bottom before everything finally turns around for her. Chicago swallowed them whole the way big cities do to people who show up with nothing. They shared a single room barely big enough for 2 beds, paying rent to a landlord who raised the price the second he felt like it. Emma took the first job she could find, waiting tables at a small diner downtown, 12-hour shifts on her feet for wages that barely covered food. She cried some nights, not from pity, from pure exhaustion, and from the ache of being called a liar by people who once claimed to love her. But she never stopped reading. Every night after her shift, she borrowed old business books from a second-hand stall near her building and read them by the light of her phone whenever the power cut out, which it often did. She repeated Ruth's words to herself like a prayer. A lie only wins the day you carry it. She refused to carry hers one single day longer than she had to. One evening, a well-dressed man walked into the diner distracted, his mind clearly somewhere else entirely. He set a folder of financial documents on the table and didn't notice a single sheet slide off and land near Emma's feet as she cleared the table beside him. She picked it up to hand it back and, in the 2 seconds it took to look at it, spotted a number that didn't add up, buried 3 rows down in a column most people would have skimmed right past. "Sir, I'm sorry to bother you," she said quietly, "but I think there's a mistake here. This total doesn't match the line above it." He frowned and checked it twice. She was right. "Who are you?" he asked slowly, looking at her properly for the first time. "And where did a waitress learn to read a balance sheet like that?" That man was Daniel Whitfield, the founder of one of the fastest-growing companies in the city. That single mistake he almost walked right past became the door that changed the rest of Emma's life. "Sit with me for 10 minutes, he said. "I want to hear this." 10 minutes turned into an hour. She told him everything. The exam, the papers she never touched, the boy who walked away, the aunt who threw her out onto the street. He listened without interrupting once. "I don't know if you cheated," he said honestly when she finished. "But I know cheaters don't correct a stranger's financial report for free while carrying a tray of food. I'd like to offer you a job, a real one, and I think, given time, a great deal more than that." Emma stared at him, certain she'd misheard him completely. She hadn't. If this moment gave you chills, comment the word believer right now, hit like, and make sure you're subscribed, because what happens next is where everything Emma lost gets rebuilt into something far bigger than what was taken from her. The next 4 years moved fast and never once slowed down. Emma studied by day and worked by night. She graduated at the top of her class. The same sharp mind that once made her the best student in her old school now trained on real numbers and real stakes. Daniel promoted her twice within 2 years, watching her instincts grow sharper every single quarter. You could run this whole department in 5 years, he told her one night, reviewing her latest report. I plan to run more than that, Emma said, and he laughed, because he believed her completely. She never forgot where she came from. She quietly funded scholarships for girls in situations just like hers used to be, never asking for credit, never telling a single soul. By her 5th year at the company, Emma had become vice president, one of the youngest in the company's entire history, trusted with decisions worth more money than her old hometown had seen in a generation. Almost 5 years to the day since that exam hall, back in the town she once called home, the truth that had been buried for so long finally started climbing back to the surface. Grace had never stopped carrying the guilt. It followed her through school, through her first job, through nights she couldn't explain to anyone around her. She had watched an innocent girl's entire life get destroyed because she was too afraid to say no, and the weight of it only grew heavier with every year that passed. One evening, unable to carry it any longer, Grace walked straight into the principal's office. I need to tell you something, she said, her voice shaking. And I should have told you 5 years ago. She told him everything. The envelope. 5 years ago, she said. I stood near this exact spot and told a room full of people I was innocent, and not one of them believed